There's a movie that came out in 1999. Some of you will know it. It was Fight Club. I watched Fight Club. I went to the cinema to watch it 11 times with my buddy. We smoked a lot of pot. You can imagine we had nothing to do. And then I had a CD burnt. And when I was in uni, it was on 2 CDs. So I'd watch the same 1 CD over and over and over every time I had lunch. So I cannot tell you the number of times I watched it. So, and I related to that movie very much, like many people who watched it. And there's a specific scene, it's the car scene towards, let's say, 3/4, 4/5 of the movie, towards the end, let's say. And they're in the car, and the homeboy Tyler Durden, played by Brad Pitt, is gonna put them through a test. The test is, we're in a car, and I'm not gonna drive. I'm not gonna hold the steering wheel. Just stupid things, right? But there's a deeper meaning to it. And he asks the question, name one thing you wish you would have done before you die. And I would play the exercise all the time, right? And at the time, in 1999, I was a pothead. But I watched the movie so many times in 2002, 3, 4, 5, 6, when I was in another phase of my life when I was supposedly a spiritual person. And every single time the question was asked, my answer was, fuck. Name one thing you wish you would have done before you die. Fuck. I'm supposed to say, discover God. Whatever, some kind of bullshit like this, right? Be more kind. Something like this, right? And me, it was systematic, and I was like, right? Because I'm trying to be a spiritual dude, right? So I'm like, this is not working out for me. Luckily, nobody hears my thoughts. But I was very confronted that. And I said, at some point, I realized, okay, you can't escape this. And I believe, to answer your question, because the question isn't so clear, but I believe that the onset of sexual maturity comes at a similar juncture. When you understand that there's a deep fear of sexuality, and that how you've dealt with it. Either you've acted chaste. I wasn't chaste. I had been traumatized because of sexuality. It's not sexuality that traumatizes you. It's got a power. You don't understand the power. You use it, and it creates consequences, and these consequences burn you. So then you associate it to sexuality, or to women, or to men, depending on where you're at, right? And then you want nothing to do with that. So I became spiritual, but a person who doesn't become spiritual just has no sex, it's equivalent, isn't it? Right? So you can go in that direction. On the other side, you can just go all out crazy, drink, take drugs, whatever version of that you want. But fundamentally, there's a fear. And the moment you start to realize that these 2 approaches, so supposed chastity, or I don't want to have sex, or I want no sex. And today they have like a sexual genre of a person who doesn't have sex, right? They have like your heterosexual, homosexual, lesbian, and then there's a version of, I don't know what it's called, the ones who doesn't have sex but only in their minds, right? Whatever. Yeah, I know exactly what they mean, by the way. So the moment that it starts to dawn on you that there's no escaping sexual power, because it's the generative power at the base of our human experience. Not only that, it's the sexual generative power that is at the very base of healing, which is my primary field of interest. So it's like, how are you going to heal if you don't have generative power, something that births new, right? So there's no escaping. So at the moment this starts to dawn on you, then the door of humility opens, because you realize you're scared, and you should be. But people don't want to, no, I'm not scared of sex, so they jump into it, or they tend to try to avoid it. No, you're scared shitless. And that brings us back to what I was saying at the start. There's a saying in some spiritual traditions that says chastity is life and sexuality is death. Indeed, sexuality is death. And you can understand it in so many ways, such as it's horrible because death is horrible, or you can actually understand it as the reason there is sexuality within us as human beings, it is because we live in a world of time, and in time, form dies. There's a direct correlation between sexuality and death, because sexuality, the real definition of sexuality, the real meaning of it is reproduction, give birth again. And you don't give birth again unless you die. If there is no death, sexuality as we know it wouldn't exist, would it? So there's a direct correlation between sexuality and death.